Hey, Steady Steve, please like and subscribe. Please click on the Deck Heroes icon. Click on subscribe. It's 100% free. Blood in, blood out. And don't forget to click on the notifications just so you don't miss any amazing content. This video here by Mr. Derek Silver, What Nice Guys Do Not Understand. Nearly 100,000 views. I have watched it once, I think it was yesterday. I can't remember much about it, so it's almost like a first viewing. We get to some real meaty bits we can give some feedback on. I'm a gentleman in his 40s. I live in the bustling city of London, got a psychology degree and a master's in economics. Anyway, let's go.
You know, growing up, we all heard the phrase that nice guys finish last. And in my teenage years, I could definitely say that I fell into this category. Actually, it's kind of funny. The other day, I found a bunch of my old senior portraits from high school, and reading back on some of them, it was a bunch of girls talking about how much of a nice guy I was. So objectively, I could definitely speak on this. It's actually not the case that nice guys finish last. Rather, it'd be more accurate to say that passive guys finish last, or guys that are pushovers. And oftentimes in society, we conflate those two things, when in reality, being passive and also being nice can be completely mutually exclusive. You can be a passive guy and also not be a very nice person. And you can also be a genuinely nice person and not necessarily be passive or reserved. And the problem is, in society, we conflate those two definitions and we label all these guys as nice guys, which is essentially why a lot of guys think that the problem is that they're too nice, so then they end up being assholes. And no one really ever talks about this when they talk about nice guys finish last, and this is extremely important to differentiate. So let's break this down. There's effectively three types of guys that society labels as nice guys. The first type of nice guy is the most genuine definition of a nice guy. And that's a guy that's genuinely nice to everyone, but at the same time, he's also very passive, very reserved, very introverted, very shy, etc. And these types of guys tend to be friends with everyone. No one really dislikes them. However, these guys do finish last in the sense that they never get the girl that they like. And there's a lot of reasons for this. The first reason being that they have an inability to establish boundaries. They tend to let friends, peers, girls, the world walk all over them. And they also have an inability to say no because they're afraid of stepping on toes, they're afraid of making people angry, they're afraid of upsetting the girl that they like, so they always say yes. This type of guy is a genuine people pleaser where he wants to make everyone around him happy. Even if there's nothing to gain or even if it's at the cost of himself, he will go out of his way to make other people happy. He will always put everyone else above himself, not because he has some secret agenda or something to gain, but genuinely just because that's who he is. And by the way, girls love this type of guy, but they don't find this type of guy attractive. But he makes an amazing guy best friend to girls because he will listen to your problems, he will never make you angry, he will go out of his way for you, he's gonna do whatever it takes to make you happy. This type of nice guy makes an amazing friend to girls. But the girl just won't find this type of guy attractive because a lot of these qualities communicates feminine traits. It communicates that you don't really respect yourself and you don't really stand up for yourself. And when it comes to a significant other, girls look for security above all else. And security is something that this type of nice guy doesn't seem like he can provide. If you have trouble prioritizing yourself, not ever able to say no to someone, always catering to other people's will, not standing up for yourself, not expressing your thoughts, not communicating your thoughts, never being able to prioritize yourself, all these things that make you a good friend to a girl, it doesn't make you a worthy partner because it conveys that you lack an identity. How can you stand for anything if you don't even stand up for yourself? And it sucks because this type of nice guy is actually a really good person and the most genuine out of the three types of nice guys. They're the ones with the heart of gold and care the most for other people, but it doesn't translate to success in a lot of areas of life. And in order to break out of this, the first thing you gotta do is establish boundaries and then prioritize them over your feelings. Like for example, sometimes you're gonna be put in situations where you're gonna have to compromise yourself or who you are for someone else because of how you feel for that person or feel for that girl. But it's important to understand that in those moments, you gotta know how to be selfish. You gotta know how to prioritize yourself no matter how much you wanna break that boundary. You gotta learn how to say no a lot more. You gotta know how to turn people down. Like genuinely, being a people pleaser is gonna limit you in a lot of ways in life. You're gonna say yes to a lot of things that are inconvenient to your life or not conducive to your mission or your goal or your purpose. You have to realize that you can't make everyone happy. And the sooner you realize this, the better off you're gonna be. Like always remember that you're living your own life and they're living their life. Like 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years from now, your life is gonna be predicated on what you've done, the decisions that you've made right now. You have to stop letting people and the world and your friends to mold you and start molding yourself, your life. And also, you gotta know when to walk away, and not just to girls, but to jobs, to friends, to anyone or anything that's not conducive to your life or your mission, no matter how hard it is. But the last thing for this type of nice guy is try to develop an edge. And this doesn't mean you have to start being an asshole or start being mean to everyone around you, but try to have your own back a little bit. Try to use that fire inside of you. Like a lot of times in life and society and your teachers and, adults, the world tries to dim out that masculine essence, that fire inside of you. And often this results in us being a lot more subdued when we get older. But sometimes you gotta bring it out. Sometimes you gotta stand up for yourself. Just try to know what you want, know who you are, stand firm on what you believe in, make yourself the priority in your life, have self-belief, have self-confidence, and have self-respect. Because honestly, these are the things that make you attractive to a girl. These are the things that communicates the value that you can protect her and you can provide for her. And honestly, even putting girls aside, these are the qualities that you need in life to succeed and to get what you want. Otherwise, you're gonna live a discontent life living in quiet desperation, never getting what you want, never standing up for yourself. And I really wanna speak to this type of nice guy because not only was I that guy, but life is gonna hit you eventually and it's gonna hit you hard. And you're gonna wake up and realize one day that this type of approach to life, it doesn't work. Whether it be professionally, socially, romantically, it doesn't work. And as a genuine nice guy, you're gonna come to that realization eventually. Now, the second type of nice guy is the guy that's passive.
All right, there's quite a lot there. There's quite a lot there. I like the point where he said that passive guys finish last. So you got to take a forward step. You got to be kind of confident about it. I was thinking about everything that he said. I'm going to break down in summary what I noted down. First type of nice guy likes to be nice to everybody, but in a passive way. You lack boundaries, and you're kind of like a good friend. We're confusing things now, but you can be a nice guy. You can be people, not a people pleaser in that like the passive kind of sappy way that these described. So if you fall into that, then that's who you are. You can want to make people happy and be a good kind of rounded person. The only thing is about yeah, letting people walk all over you, doing it in a very kind of sappy way. Say just kind of over trusting people, I guess, you know what I mean, as a man, and then having people walk over you and take advantage of that trust, I guess. And that's not to say don't trust anybody. It's just kind of over trusting people. Basically, there's nothing wrong with doing any of this stuff if you can maintain that sexual edge. So if you speak to a lady and you can maintain good eye contact, you're in good physical shape, you do all this stuff, but you do it with a surety. So you can still be a nice person, but your general interactions are just with a certainty and a surety about you. Like I'm speaking to you. I'm a good person. I work in homelessness, but it doesn't mean I'm a sap. You know what I mean? I like people to be happy. That doesn't make me a sap. You know what I mean? You can be a good person. I don't think that's what he's saying. um, but I think the important definition of what he didn't say is, again, just have that bit of like presence about you, bit of presence about you, that you say what you mean and you mean what you say, but you can still be a nice person. Um, yeah, you don't want to fall into feminine traits. I don't think being nice is necessarily a feminine trait. But say if you kind of say if you're the nerdy guy and you do all these nice things, that's fine. But if you do it with your head bowed low and you're talking a low voice and you don't ever establish presence, that's what kind of puts you into this nice guy bracket. I think he's reading off a list, and that's absolutely fine and logical. How we kind of followed through did make some sense, but I think there's the thing behind the thing. What I'm saying basically, he talks about prioritizing self and just being a leader in general. Sometimes women say that they want somebody to take charge and move things forwards, right? And I think in some ways maybe a nice guy would still kind of bounce it back to the lady once she's already made clear that she's being indecisive. She just wants somebody to take her out this frustration, not being able to decide something. I'm not saying everybody, and I'm not saying all circumstances. I'm talking about the circumstance I've just described. Plan things out, basically. Anyway, let's go.
Reserved, a bit shy, a bit introverted, but unlike the previous definition of a nice guy, he's not exactly a nice person. This is just what the world and society labels him, or even he labels himself. And this type of nice guy is actually very angry at the world. He's very discontent with his life. Because based on the fact that he's a passive guy, this translated to never really getting what he wanted out of life. And he has the victim mentality of, oh, it's because I'm a nice guy. He has the mentality of, I didn't get the girl because I'm a nice guy, because I'm too nice to everyone. And he automatically assumes negative qualities to anyone else that's good with girls. Whether it's the guy that's really popular, or the guy that's really funny, or the starting point guard, or the quarterback, or the guy that's really smart and really charismatic at the same time. To him, everyone else is the problem. The world is filled with assholes. And he has the mentality of, I'm the guy that nobody sees the true value in. And this type of nice guy is the most disingenuous in the sense that he always gives with certain expectation. And if those certain expectations aren't met, then everyone else is the problem and he gets angry. And this type of nice guy, he doesn't really do well with other people, let alone girls. And I feel like we've all known someone like this growing up. And not only does he not know how to stand up for himself or not know how to say no, it's not necessarily out of kindness or wanting to make other people happy. Rather, it's purely out of being passive and he doesn't know how to go about getting what he wants. But they'll blame the label of being the nice guy that they've convinced themselves that they are. All of the shortcomings or inadequacies in their life or not getting the girl is because of the nice guy. He's a nice guy, in his mind. And a lot of it is a lack of self-awareness and a lack of self-reflection. And there's a lot of reasons for this. It could be because they're spoiled, they never left the comfort zone, no real life experiences, having a shallow perspective, they lack empathy, they're only able to see things through their view. And these are the guys that can be selfish, manipulative, and a lot of girls can sense a fake nice guy a mile away, where they don't even want to be friends with them. Like they can tell if there's an objective or agenda behind you being nice. Because aside from being discontent in life or never getting the girl or always being angry or frustrated at the world, it's also very lonely. Because this type of person doesn't make a lot of friends. People don't want to be around them. And I have personally known someone like this back in high school where he saw himself as a nice guy, but he didn't get the girl he wanted. And to him, everyone else was the asshole. That's why the girl he liked didn't like him back. Like everything else was everyone else's fault. And he was just very negative. The best way to get out of this mentality is I mean, I personally believe it's getting punched in the face. Maybe literally, maybe metaphorically, maybe take combat sports, maybe get beat up a little. But I would say get out of your comfort zone and let life metaphorically or literally punch you in the face. Like go through a humbling experience, something that makes you a better person. Whether that's taking combat sports and getting beat up a little or traveling to a third world country, just get out of your comfort zone and go through an experience that humbles you. That's the only way that this type of perspective, this type of mentality can change. Don't be the fake nice guy. Like this is probably one of the worst types of guy that you can be. The third type of nice guy is the guy.
Okay, not a bad summary. Not a bad summary. Yeah. Okay. So the second type of guy, generally kind of negative. Have got high expectations of the world. Fails socially. Blames his shortcomings on everything else, basically, but it's mostly due to his passivity. So basically, as men, we've got to take charge. We've got to recognize what's going wrong and look at things objectively. And what I'm thinking is, I know a lot of men are raised by one parent, and that parent may well be an emotional thinker. It's not necessarily the man, but you got to look to self. You got to look to examples of other kind of high achieving men. Maybe read some men's magazines like the Esquires of the world, or whatever you choose to read, which is written by like the upper echelons of men, not these kind of kid YouTubers. You know what I mean? Just and take cues from it. Look at other people and learn from their successes and their mistakes, and think, okay, that's what I need to do. Learn these positive traits. Yeah, he makes in the example of this second tier of nice guy. Those tend to have a specific and blinkered view of the world, which kind of reinforces a perspective. But essentially, women can sense that kind of weakness and that kind of passivity and that kind of beta mindset is just not sexy to a woman. And in terms of kind of that natural selection, it's not that kind of person who's going to endure and got the broad shoulders in order to sustain a family. You know what I mean? So as a man, we're expected to kind of have that objective, long-term provider viewpoint on what happens in more or less all scenarios. Women are the nurturers, and we are those kind of ground breakers. But if you show yourself to be weak or kind of oversensitive or razor thin, or kind of you haven't learned enough about life in order to kind of lead on any subject, let alone kind of leading that relationship, then what example are you going to be to your kids? And these kind of subconscious things that women have and how they kind of assess men. So food for thought. Very good.
That's genuinely a kind person, but not necessarily passive or reserved. But because of the nice guy label, oftentimes his kindness is taken for granted. Him being nice is seen as a weakness. But because he's genuinely a nice guy, he sometimes allows people to walk over him. So they have a hard time balancing between being nice and also standing up for themselves. Now this type of nice guy has the potential of being an asshole, because he gets tired of his kindness getting taken for granted and also conflated with passivity. Like he's able to set boundaries, but he's unsure of where to draw them. So he has a bit of an identity crisis and goes back and forth between being a nice guy and being an asshole. And sometimes he'll go out of his way to try to break the nice guy label. And I think this applies to a lot of guys where they're genuinely nice, but they're also afraid of getting taken advantage of, or having their kindness being seen as a weakness, or having the nice guy label. And because of this, sometimes they'll act out of character and be someone that they're not. But for him, it's really an issue of just knowing when and where to draw that boundary, and also knowing when to stand firm on something. Ultimately, there's nothing wrong with being nice. There's actually a lot of positives. Like if you can be kind and respectful, but also show dominant traits, and also have that perfect balance of having a type A personality, and also being able to be the funny gentleman archetype, like a lot of girls love that. Nice guys don't finish last. Passive guys finish last. Guys that are pushovers. It's just that we've conflated those two things as a society. And because of the label of a nice guy, we automatically assume that any guy that's nice is automatically passive. And any guy that's passive is also nice, which isn't true. Like being nice and being passive can be completely mutually exclusive. To any guy out there that's genuinely a nice guy and also very passive and very shy and very reserved, I would say learn to be selfish. Learn how to prioritize yourself. Develop an identity, have core values, have your own back, be kind, and you won't finish last. The common denominator is passivity. Nice guys don't finish last. Passive guys finish last. Just because someone's nice doesn't mean they're passive. And just because someone's passive doesn't mean they're nice. Anyways, thank you for listening. I love you. I appreciate you. Make sure you stay true. And I'll talk to you real soon. Peace.
Interesting. So the third guy, as I understand it in summary, just genuinely nice guy. Sometimes have that lack of balance where that niceness is taken for weakness, and then to kind of balance that out, he goes a little bit too far sometimes and goes, sets his boundaries by kind of being a little bit mean from time to time. But so I think the overall message is that nice guys do not necessarily finish last. It is the passive guys that finish last, and I think that is the main takeaway from three types of kind gentlemen that he described, and I say that is something to think about. It's definitely something to think about. And when I see the stories about isolation in different forms, I think in some ways it comes down to this. I mean, this is one of many elements, but I think this is definitely one of them. And it is about that kind of self reflection that we can. I'm a nice guy, that we can be nice guys, but it's just about still being able to look people in the eye and say things with a surety. And I say, when you're physically fit, you just have these endorphins and you have a physical presence which comes across, and you dress smart, and you've got to say you've achieved certain things in your life, and this is that rounded man who can also be nice and taken seriously. You can recognize that people are trying to take advantage of you. You just got to put the boundaries up and just not allow it to happen. You know what I mean? And again, this is, you can be a nice guy and have boundaries. So it does annoy me when people kind of throw that into the mix like a catch-all. Definitely not. Anyway, interesting video. Please like, subscribe. That is Steve, and I am out.